The world lost two great members of the hockey community. Columbus Blue Jackets forward Johnny Gaudreau and his brother, Worcester Raiders forward Matthew Gaudreau. The brothers were biking in their home state of New Jersey when both men were struck by a drunk driver, killing them instantly. They were hours away from being groomsmen in their sister's wedding. Johnny was taken from his two daughters, his wife, parents, and sisters. Matthew was also taken from his wife and first child, who was due in December of this year. Along with the same parents and sisters, both losses will be felt for years to come across the hockey landscape. Johnny was a generational player whose high level of skill and various achievements earned him the nickname Johnny Hockey while a member of the Calgary Flames. It's a shame that these young men who had their entire lives ahead of them were taken so quickly and on such a short notice by a selfish individual who decided he would get behind the wheel while intoxicated. Now entire lives are lost, and parents, siblings, wives, and children will have to find the strength to continue on without their sons, brothers, husbands, and fathers.
All right. That was rough, right? We're going to get into it, but a nice little somber hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us tonight for session 56 of Caniac Sessions. I'm Griff.
I'm AB.
And we've got some good news tonight to talk about. It was announced about 48 hours ago, well, a little over 48 hours ago, that Seth Jarvis has finally ended Jarvy Watch 2024 and signed his long-term extension, 8 years, $63.2 million contract. We'll get into that, the structure of the contract, and, just how it looks moving forward. But first things first, before we do that, we're brought to you by DraftKings and BetterHelp as a member of THPN. That's the Hockey Podcast Network. Check out the Hockey Podcast Network if you have not, www.hockeypodcastnetwork.com. There's shows for everybody, for every team, for every niche in hockey. Go check it out. And yeah, it's good stuff. We are also promotional partners with SeatGeek. Sign up at www.seatgeek.com. And when you do, utilize promo code caniacsessions. That's one word, no space between Caniac and Sessions, and get $20 off your first ticket purchase. It helps you, it helps us, and it helps SeatGeek. AB, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Had a good weekend, so that's pretty much it. Excited about Jarvy, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so real quick, we are only live on YouTube tonight.
Okay.
We are not live on X as usual because, when the Johnny Gaudreau news broke, I thought it was appropriate to change our profile picture to the number 13.
Yeah.
And then I changed it back every time. So on X, if you have a premium account, every time you change your profile picture, it has to go through a re-verification phase. So I changed the profile picture back this morning to our normal Caniac Sessions logo. And now it's got to go through another verification phase. So while it's going through verification, we're not considered a premium account. And so we can't live stream to X. So we're on YouTube tonight. I put a tweet out saying so because I didn't realize that was going to happen until we started it, but that's the case. Sucks, but we'll do with what we got. So anyway, We wanted to start the session tonight with, a small tribute to Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew after the news dropped the other day about their passing. I remember seeing the reports before I went to bed. I believe it was Friday night?
Mm-hmm.
And then, woke up Saturday morning I'm sorry, Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
I think the news broke Friday morning.
Yes.
So went to bed Thursday night. I saw the reports and I was like, man, I hope this is a hoax. I hope this is not true. And, you just kind of had that feeling in the pit of your stomach that it was, because, nobody had come out and refuted it. The national media was quiet, and that just makes you think, if there's no reason to come out and say it's not true, then maybe it is. So, and then we woke up Friday morning to the news, and it's just devastating. Not only just because he's a hockey, because they are hockey players, but you just hear the story around it, right? You hear that it was a drunk driver, totally preventable. You just don't drink and drive. It's not hard. Like, you hear it, people say it, but a lot of people get out there and they think that, well, it's not going to happen to me until it happens to you. And, some people get away with it. Some people get away with it for a long time, or, they get lucky and they get pulled over and busted before they impact another's life. But then there's the people out there that do impact others' lives. There's the people that impact others' lives through injury or injury to themselves. And then the worst case scenario, like occurred Thursday night, you take somebody's life because you made a selfish decision.
Yeah. First of all, both Griff and I can send the condolences to the Gaudreau family and their friends about what tragedy just transpired. It is so easy to take a ride home by someone who is sober via Uber, Lyft, taxi. And, maybe you have an ego thing where, oh, I can drive, but, you know, uh, people don't realize w- first, the mistake of drunk driving is massive. And the second mistake is you could take somebody's life or injure them. Gaudreau,
Absolutely.
Johnny Hockey was a franchise player for the Blue Jackets. And his brother was a very good hockey player as well, playing in the ECHL, which is the affiliate for the New York Islanders. And it broke my heart to see that his sister was getting married a couple of hours after they got killed. And to know that Matthew Gaudreau's daughter, well,
Soon to be.
child, soon
Yeah.
to be child, will not know her dad, will not see her dad.
Yep.
Johnny Gaudreau's children will not be able to see their dad anymore.
Yep. All because of a selfish, stupid. I'm not even going to call it a mistake, because it's not a mistake. It's
No, it's not a
action.
mistake.
Action.
It's an action of being ignorant and being an idiot. And I could go off on so much more of a tangent, but
Yeah.
I don't think this guy understands, because I've seen stuff about, the videos, if you want to go look it up. This guy ended not only two people's lives, but if you think about it, so many other people's, because it's not going to be the same without any of those guys, Matthew Gaudreau and Johnny Hockey.
Mm-hmm.
It just gut wrenching. And, for anybody out there listening, just if you have had drinks, I don't care if it's one or a couple, please have a sober driver lined up. Uber, lift, do not get on the road because there are serious things that can happen. And we're talking about one right now. So just prayers to the Gaudreau family and, don't drink and drive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, hopefully some good can come out of this and, it'll drive the conversation just kind of like we're having right now. And, maybe save lives down the road. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, sucks to start in that manner, but I wanted to do that just to kind of pay tribute and, watch that guy play a lot of hockey. Johnny anyway, didn't watch Matthew too much, but watched Johnny play a lot of hockey and enjoyed it. And he will be missed.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's just start with the Jarvis news, right? The Jarvis contract. We have a contract, and we were wondering all along, what has taken so long? Why is the team taking so long? Why aren't we signing this deal? What is Jarvis doing? Should we be worried? Turns out they were trying to structure it in a way, and maybe this is what took so long.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to structure this in a way that would save some money in cap space.
That's right.
And we'll get into this, but this is the first time it's been done. Well, since Jacob Slavin's contract, right? Because there's a little bit of deferred salary in Jacob Slavin's contract, but not enough to really move the needle. But you feel like that was kind of a test run for this one. So the way that Eric Tulsky signed this contract or wrote this contract is basically defers some money after the 8-year mark, right? And so the money that is deferred, you take the present value of that amount, and that ends up being your cap savings, right? So there's this whole concept. I'm sure a lot of people know the time value of money, and a dollar today is worth less than what a dollar will be worth 8 years from now. Blah, 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 whatever. So the present value of that deferred compensation is less today than what that amount is in the future. So that's your cap savings. And we'll get it more into that right now.
Yep.
So this is kind of a picture of the Jarvis contract. Again, it's 8 years, 62.3 or 63.2 million. Now, if you look at the top of this slide here, it says 59.36 million. Well, that amount is actually, hold on a second, 59.36 million divided by 8 years. Yeah. So that amount is basically what the contract is over the span of the 8 years, right? 59.36. But then the present value of that deferred compensation is the difference, right? So while he will actually get paid 63.2 million from this contract, only 59.36 goes against the cap. It's kind of complicated. I'm not sure I've got all the details down right, but that's my understanding.
I got confused because I saw Frank Cervalli report 7.5, and then I saw people say 7.9, and I guess that's what you just talked about, how there's stuff after the fact besides the base salary that he has right now.
Right. If he were getting paid the 63.2 million by 8 years, that's where you get your $7.9 million cap hit annually. So a standard, that's why everybody thought when the numbers first came out, Sarah Valley wrote an article, but nobody read it initially. They just saw his tweet that said 8 years, 63.2 million. It was like, oh, $7.9 million cap hit. That's right around where we thought, anywhere between 7.75 to 8.5 is kind of what we were looking at. Remember? And so 7.9 was kind of, you felt good about that. And then Sarah Valley comes back out and he's like, well, no, read my article. It's not 7.9, it's actually 7.5. And then after all the, everybody did the math, we realized, well, it's actually less than 7.5, it's 7.42.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's cap that we will have that will grow throughout the season, and we can use at the trade deadline, or we can use to bring over a certain someone from Russia after his season ends. Who knows?
Well, we don't have to worry about panic for our future. We have Jarvis, Aho, Slavin, Svetch.
Carrier. Hey, he's signed for 6 years, AB.
That's true. That is true.
6 years,
Maybe
a long
he's
time.
gonna. Should he get top line minutes? I don't know. Clearly, they have a plan. But you have Jarvis, Aho, and Slavin, and Svetch. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, we need to re-sign them like next offseason. Even though with Jarvis, it was a little bit of a, I don't even know how to describe it. Just it felt like pain, but then when it got done, you were like, finally, just took a deep breath, and you were just like, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah, just like everybody said all along, he wants to be here. The team wants him here. It's going to get done. Yeah, so it's done. It's good news. But yeah, if we look at the structure of the contract here, if anybody cares, I like looking at the details, and you see what his base salary is, and what signing bonuses there are. This deal is very front heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You see that this upcoming season he's due almost $11 million between signing bonuses and base salary, right? So he's going to get almost a $9 million signing bonus, and that's cash in the pocket, like immediately, minus taxes. But and then same thing next season, the 25-26 season, base salary is a little bit higher and signing bonuses a little bit less, but total salary is the same, just short of 11 million. And then it kind of declines, over the life of the contract, down until the start of the 2030-2031 season, when his signing bonuses kick back in. He'll get that signing bonus for 2 years, the last 2 years of the contract. And then when the contract expires on June 30th, 2032, July 1st, 2032 is when he gets that balloon payment on the back end, right? And so if you see that at the bottom of the slide, you'll see this little whatever it's called, this little note here that says contract includes $15.67 million in deferred compensation until July 1st, 2032. And then it breaks it down by year: $4.95 million in years 1, 2, $5.7 million in year 3. And the cap hit is based on the present value of deferred compensation. So the deferred compensation amount is $15.67 million. Today, the present value of that amount is, so if we take 63.2 million and we subtract 59.36, I messed up on my calculator here.
You got it.
63.2 and then 59.3. So that's only $3.9 million. So the present value of $15.67 million in basically 8 years from now is only $3.9 million. So
Pretty good.
Yeah. So while this is a $63.2 million contract, he's actually getting paid more than that. Crazy. Yeah. So good news is Seth Jarvis is signed. Eric Tulsky and his brain and the brains around him figured all this other crap out. It's the first one of these. It's been allowed per the CBA for a long time, but it's the first time somebody's pulled it off. The league signed off on it. Expect to see more of this now that Tulsky kind of introduced it to the NHL. And then also, something I saw or something you could look at is starting in the 2028-29 season, he gets a modified no trade clause. So it's basically a 20-team list. If the team wants to trade him for whatever reason, if that were to happen, he gets a list of 20 teams that he cannot go to. So I don't expect Jarvis to be traded, unless the team's bad in the last couple of years of his contract. But the good news is Seth Jarvis is going to be a Hurricane into his 30s.
You know why?
Go ahead.
Because he is freaking leaked.
That's right. Freaking leaked. Yes. He's quickly turning into one of my favorite players. So
100%.
Yeah.
Now I can buy a jersey without having to worry if they get traded.
I bought one at the beginning of last season. I bought a Jarvis jersey.
Well, you already knew.
I did not, but we'll pretend like it. All right. So some more things to get to. We're going to talk about Jesper Fast. We're going to talk about some potential lineup scenarios with Fast on LTIR. And then we're going to talk about Eric Tulsky's first offseason and kind of what we think about it and how it shaped up. And we're going to give him a grade, right, individually. Before we do that, though, we are going to take a quick break, and we are going to hear from our first sponsor. This session is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you want to make time to learn new things as often as you'd like? Or is that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something you'd like to learn? Gardening, a new language, or maybe how to finally beat your best friend in bowling? Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. You've heard me talk about therapy before. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. All right, AB, we're back.
We are back.
So, some news that came out, it's probably been a week now, and we haven't discussed it yet. No, I don't think it's been a week, has it? It came out after we did session 55.
Yeah.
Maybe like immediately after. I feel like it was like almost right after. But anyway, it has been announced that Jesper Fast did have neck surgery. And he will miss the entirety of the 2024-2025 season. We've been wondering about this all offseason, really since that Columbus game, what's going to come of this injury. He didn't play in the playoffs. He was wearing a neck brace well into the offseason. But then we started to see pictures, without it. And we thought, maybe he could play. Maybe he'll be ready by camp. And then, Adam Gold reported a couple times, who was really the only one that had this information, that, they were a couple weeks away, and this was several weeks ago, but he said, the team's about a couple weeks away from finding out whether or not Jesper Fast will be, can play, has to take some time on LTIR, or it could be as bad as retirement. And the news we got is right now that he's just going to miss the entirety of the season. We haven't heard anything beyond that. I'm sure that will be taken step by step. So the bad news is we won't have Jesper Fast this year, which sucks because I love that guy. You know, he's not a big scorer. He's not a big skilled guy, but he's gritty. He plays hard. He forechecks hard. He's, you know, he kills penalties. He does a lot of that dirty stuff that a lot of other people don't do. And he's good at it.
Yep.
And every team needs a guy like that to win. And so, you know, maybe they knew, or maybe the team knew for a while that, you know, he wasn't going to be available. Maybe that has something to do with the Carrier signing. But, you know, your thoughts on Jesper Fast?
Man, he's such a good guy, and everybody loves him around the locker room, and just, you know, some of the things that you wish didn't happen to some players, and I hope that this is not a career-ending injury. Like you said, he's gritty. You know, he is great for Jordan Stahl. I mean, they go together very well. Jordan Martinook as well. Just hope he gets back to 100% and plays in a Hurricanes uniform once again, and his career and his personal life go back to 100%. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the important thing, right? Making sure that you don't have any long-term effects from the injury. So hopefully whatever surgery he had, you know, took care of it. I know for a long time they acted like they didn't know what was wrong with him. You know, you know, so
it also depends on what vertebrae. So
yeah. Yeah, so that's basically all we know, but now the question that's out there is, you know, what does the lineup look like without Jesper Fast? Because I've been throwing him in all my lineup projections, you know, through the offseason because I was kind of hopeful that he would be here.
Yep.
But with his placement on LTIR, that also opens up, you know, what, $2.4 million is it $2.4 million? I think that's right.
I believe so, because it was a 3-year contract when he signed.
I think it's 2.4 million. So if that's indeed what it is, you know, we'll get that cap back to use elsewhere. So I don't really know. I don't really expect the team to use his cap hit or his cap space right now. I think they'll keep a hold of it and see how the season plays out, and then maybe use that at the trade deadline, right? Because you've got the savings that you have with the Jarvis contract. You've got, you know, some other cap space that'll be built in, you know, just because what do we say? We had over $9 million of cap space before it was signed. So you've got to think we've got at least 1.5 million remaining, you know, after the Jarvis deal. Plus you add Jesper Fast on top of that. You know, you've got enough cap space to take a splash at the deadline if you're in position to do so. You know, so who knows who could be available this deadline? There's a lot of big name free agents that, you know, that are out there. So, you know, could you find somebody and, you know, make a trade to, you know, with some salary retention, or who knows, you know, and if you're in position to make a run, which, I mean, you never know, this team could be, you know, your one trade deadline acquisition.
There you go.
You're one trade deadline acquisition away from being that much better. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but I don't expect them to use Fast's cap space right now. I think they're going to roll into the season with the lineup they've got, the players they've got. And yeah, so we have Brandon in the chat. He says, Martinook, Stahl, Blake soon. Not so fast. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know.
Sound like Lee Corso. Not so fast.
Oh, wait, hold on. You got I don't have the yellow pencil.
But I got this. There it is. There it is.
So fast. Yeah. we'll talk about that right now. So I put together a little projection, and this is just like a starting point, and we can talk about it. We can make adjustments to it. We can do whatever. I know Brandon did this last night in his live, but I do have to admit, I'm sorry, Brandon, I have not watched it yet. So, but I plan to. I was busy all day today. It's been a crazy weekend. I had this sink drain unclogged today. It was a mess. But he says Frank agrees. I don't care what Frank agrees with. Frank does not speak English. Brandon.
He understands it, but does not speak it. That's right.
That's right. So, anyway, let's get into this. This this projected lineup. Again, this is a base lineup, kind of what I'm thinking that we could see. We can talk about it, make tweaks, and everybody that's listening right now or watching, you can take a look at this with us. Let us know in the comments what you would change. If you're listening to this audio version after the fact, right, at a later date, DM us, shoot us a tweet, whatever. I'm going to post this to X tonight, this little lineup. Let us know what we should change or what you would change. And if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, drop a comment and let us know. So, AB, without further ado, here it is.
Let's get into it. I'm seeing it the same time as all of y'all. So
Yeah,
I have to look at it as well.
So, top line, Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis. I think that's going to, that might not be how we finish the season, but I think that's what we're going to see October 11th versus Tampa. I think that's the top
solid.
line.
That's solid. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Second line, I believe, is going to be Bradley Nadeau. I think Jesperi Kotkaniemi is going to get the first crack at second line center just because of the amount of money that he's being paid. So I think the organization is going to give him an opportunity to get off on the right foot this year. So I think he's going to get the first crack at that second line center position. And then Martin Necas on his opposite, or on his wing, on his right wing, opposite Bradley Nadeau.
Okay. I would put Jordan Martin up there. But now looking at it,
let's get through the whole thing before real quick, and then I'll let you go and you can dissect it and you can tell me, call me stupid and all that stuff.
I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet the whole time. You do your own thing.
Yeah, I'll open up. I'll give you the floor as soon as I get through this, and you can tell me where you change it. So
sounds good.
That's my second line. Third line. Now these next two lines, you can either you can interchange them, make whichever one your third or your fourth. Like, I don't care at this point. I just got Jordan Stahl right now as the third line center just because that's what he's been. And Jordan Martinook on his left wing, Jack Roslovic on his right wing. I just basically slot Jack Roslovic in where Jesper Fast would have been. And then my fourth line, I've got Jack Drury centering William Carrier on his left and Brendan Lemieux on his right. I hope Brendan Lemieux gets a shot at this. I think Brendan Lemieux earned his shot last season when he sat in the press box. He was a total professional. The words he said about, the coach and his willingness to sign here another year, I hope he gets a shot. And I don't, and the reason I would say Lemieux and I wouldn't bump, Jackson Blake up into this roster is, I think Bradley Nadeau is going to be on this team, and I feel better going into the season with one true rookie rather than two, right? Yes, Jackson Blake has probably got a higher ceiling, obviously, than Brendan Lemieux, but there's something to be said about a gritty roster. And this roster here is gritty at the bottom. Jordan Martinook, William Carrier, even Jack Drury can play gritty. Brendan Lemieux, there's some dudes in that bottom six. And I like that. I think this team needs that. if they want to, take a legitimate shot in the postseason. And I think this team, as currently constructed, can be a 100-point team. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent there, but I just did. So let me just stop and move on to the defense. Jacob Slavin, Brent Burns. Then I've got Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield, right? I know a lot of people think, well, break up Orlov and Chatty, move Walker up with Orlov and move Chatty down with Gostisbehere. You could do that. We know both. We know Chatfield can play with any of those left-handed defensemen. Chatty can play with Slavin. Chatty can play with Orlov. Chatty can play with Gostisbehere. You know why I know? Because I've seen him play successfully with all three of them at certain points. That dude can play with anybody. But because Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield was so strong last season, I really believe Rod's going to leave them together at least to start the season. If Walker and Gostisbehere is a dumpster fire defensively, then, swap it. That's fine. At least you can. But I think Orlov and Chatfield are going to be your second pair to start the season. And I think Gostisbehere and Walker, I believe that's a good pair. I think it's going to be fine. Sean Walker's solid defensively. And Gostisbehere is not as, he's not as good defensively as he is offensively, but he's still a serviceable defenseman. So I think that's what you're looking at defensively. I think Eric Robinson is going to be your extra forward. I don't believe we'll carry an extra defenseman. And I think Pyotr Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson are your 1A, 1B in that order. So that's my potential lineup with Jesper Fostel and LTIR. AB, let's hear it. What's your take?
Well, pretty solid lines. The only thing that there are a couple things. Well, maybe two, I would say. Bradley Nadeau with Kokoniemi and Natchez. That's a really young line. I don't think that is the way to start the season. I would rather have somebody like Martinook bump up to the second line and have Nadeau with Jordan Stahl, the captain, and Jack Roslovic. And then, of course, you have William Carrier, Jack Drury, and Brendan Lemieux. That's where I would like everything. So switch Nadeau and Martinook. Defense, obviously, the top line is going to stay the same. Chatfield and Orlov, I agree with that. And I agree with the defense. We heard back and forth about should Gostisbehere play with Chatfield, should Orlov play with Chatfield. But if you look at it, Orlov was a little bit slow to start, but when he started playing with Chatfield more and more and more, he just got better. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I like the defense, and obviously I like Cooch starting, being goaltender number one, and Freddie Anderson back up, preparing Kochetkov to be the Hurricane starter, to potentially be that franchise goalie. And of course, you have Eric Robinson. You could put in, Tyson Yos. You could put in Jackson Blake. You could put in anybody. But the only thing is Martinook, Nadeau, switch them. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Yeah. So you said switch Martinook and Nadeau. Well, something I just thought about when you said that is what, you mentioned the fact that, that second line was young. Yes, but my thought when you said that was, well, what if you make them younger but make them better? And by that, what I mean by that is, what if you switch Natchez and Jarvis? If you put Jarvis down on that second line, that's a sneaky good. That's a sneaky good defensive line. Jesperi Kokoniemi is solid defensively, right? He's a solid two-way forward. I mean, well, we'd like to see his offense production go up, but Jarvis is very, very responsible everywhere on the ice.
Oh yeah.
So So what if you move Jarvis down with KK and the dough?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an option, right?
I mean, we also heard, Nate just won in top minutes, and, Svetch, Aho, and Natchez, I would not be opposed to that. We've seen Jarvis go down to the third line to play with Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook. That actually may be something that you could possibly do because you have Bradley Nadeau, who is a younger guy. And if you want to keep him on the second line, you have a guy like Seth Jarvis who has the expectations like Bradley Nadeau and can kind of guide him into the right direction. So I wouldn't be opposed to that, in all honesty. That's a great point.
The only reason I don't want to put Nadeau with Stahl is because I want, if we're going to have a rookie in this roster, I really want him to be set up for success.
Yeah.
And if you're playing, if you're playing on Jordan Stahl's wing, you're going to draw the toughest matchups every night, at least at home, right? Jordan Stahl plays against the top lines of other teams, right? To shut them down. And so, the hope is that, their forechecking ability, creates offense, and then you have somebody there to finish, kind of like they were doing with Jarvis. And that worked, for a period of time. But, I would rather have Nadeau draw a better matchup, and that second line is going to get the preferential matchup most nights.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that's why I say that. I really think, and people get hung up with, oh, well, you got him in your top 6. Yeah, he's in your top 6, but that second line is going to draw a better matchup than that third line just because of the way they play. So I think Nadeau needs to be, I think that's the perfect spot for him. You don't put him on your top line because, again, your top line is going to draw a tough matchup as well. If you put him with KK and Natchez, or maybe you put Jarvis there, I just think that's a spot where he could kind of not be protected, but, have a better chance to succeed with skilled players, with players that produce. You don't bury him in your bottom 6 and he goes out there and, put him up there with some players that can play. And if this were a year where we're the favorites to win the cup and we're this and we're that, then okay, I get it. But, stack your lineup. But given the state of things in this organization, I believe if you're going to have a rookie on this team, and I believe he's the one that will make the roster, I just think you got to have him there.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So, and then, if it doesn't work out, then move Martinook up there, move Roslovic up there. You could, there's plenty of adjustments you can make, but that's what I see. Any more thoughts on this lineup?
Nothing, man. I said my piece.
Brandon, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. I don't know what you think. Do you agree with my statements? Do you think that Jackson Blake should still be on Stahl's wing? If you're still here, I don't even know if he's still here. He might not be, but
it's probably with Frank.
Anyway, while we're waiting on that, we can go ahead and take another quick break and hear from our next sponsor. We will be right back. NFL Week 1 is here, and a new season means new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting something simple like picking a player to score a touchdown. Ready to do a touchdown dance on your own? Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NHL Plus Premium on us. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.com/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms. All right, we're back again.
We are back better than ever.
And Brandon must have bounced, man, because he didn't get back to us, so I'm going to have to give him a hard time later.
It doesn't matter. Let's wrap it up with this really good segment that we're about to talk about.
That's right. So we have graded Eric Tulsky and his job that he has done this offseason, his first offseason. And we are going to show you what those grades are. I've got a grade for myself, and AB's got one as well. And then we are going to discuss why we gave them what we gave him. So let me pull this up. So as you can see, I have graded Eric Tulsky an A-. AB has graded him a B. AB, I'll give you the floor, and you can explain your grade.
Well, obviously, it takes a lot to get an A+. Now, we lost Jake Gensel, who could have been amazing on this team for years to come. We lost him. We lost Brady Shea, Brett Pesci. You know, we lost a couple of really solid guys that makes you a little bit worse, but Tulsky did a great job with depth and length. William Carrier. You have Jack Roslovic that can be really good. Shane Goss's fair that Brandon says this, and I agree, is a better playmaker and better all around than Brady Shea. You have Sean Walker. You added some minor league guys, Tyson Yost and Eric Robinson. And, you know, I just can't give an A-. I will credit Tulsky for re-signing Jarvis, Natchez, Slavin, taking care of everything, Martinook as well. Just taking care of all of that. But, you know, in order for me to give him anything over a B+, I need to see results. And the B stands for losing guys, but he did a great job re-signing and bringing in talent. But if we brought in a goal scorer to replace Gensel, that would bump us up just a little bit. You know, I would give him an A-, but, you know, looking at everything right now standing, it's a B for me.
Okay, that's fair. I went a little bit higher than a B. And I kind of gave him, not the benefit of a doubt, but, you know, when I thought back on his offseason and kind of how it started, you know, what a situation to be thrown into, first of all. You know, we heard, you know, whether this is true or not, we heard through interviews that Don Waddell leaving and going to Columbus was unexpected until it happened. You know, we assumed that he, you know, that this was the secession plan was already in the works and that they knew. Well, that's not what it seems. It seems like he left and didn't tell anybody until he was gone. So, you know, the fact that he took over immediately as interim and then basically had to interview for his job and be, you know, given that job, all while he's trying to navigate this offseason, which is one of the bigger off seasons in recent memory. You've got all these free agents that are, all these UFAs that are, due contracts somewhere. You have to, we knew they tried to sign a lot of these guys and were unsuccessful. And then, just then right into the draft. I thought they had a good draft. And, I think so, the prospects that they brought into the organization are, that they have a chance to land somebody really good. And, moving on from the draft, then to go into free agency, got Slavin taken care of immediately. That was big priority. He got it done. They held the press conference at the first possible second that they could sign it. Noon on July 1st. It was done and signed. Done, move on to the offseason, right? Or, free agency. And then, there was the Gensel thing. But the fact that, we didn't land Gensel. And I don't really know if I put that blame on Tulsky as much as I do Tom Dundon. But if we pretend like Tom Dundon doesn't exist in this scenario, and we just assume that everything is on Eric Tulsky, which isn't the case, but we're going to play that game here, then, that's a lesson to learn. You let Gensel get away, which, it is definitely a knock. But I thought the team did a good job with the players that they brought in. You mentioned a lot of them. You bring some guys in with term, and a low cap hit, but then you bring some guys in with less term because you know that you're going to have a ton of money to spend in the coming years. So I feel like this organization has positioned themselves. They signed their top RFAs. They got Drury done. They got Natchez done. I thought he navigated that well. He looked for a trade. He looked at ways to make the team better. But at the end of the day, he couldn't find a scenario that would send Natchez out and bring in something that would make the team better. So what does he do? He goes and he tries to patch over things with the assistance of the organization and the head coach and the players and all that stuff. It's all one. But he was able to get Natchez signed for 2 years. Right? Kind of give the player and the organization a chance to mend their differences and work together moving forward to try to continue to make it longer term. So, the fact that he was able to get Natchez done and back, and then obviously the Jarvis deal was, Jarvis 8 years, 7.4 is only going to get better year after year after year. And if Jarvis, even if he has every season after this is the same as the one that he just completed, that's a win. But he's only 22 years old. He's going to get better. He's nowhere near his prime. He's still 3-4 seasons away from his prime. So, that contract is outstanding. The Slavin contract is great. The Chatfield contract is great. And I just think that he left the organization in a good position to add to this core. There's plenty of money to spend coming up next year. We've talked about it. So a lot of people have, a short-term vision. And they want to say, oh, well, this team's not as good as it was last year, so obviously he did a bad job. Well, no. He's planning for the future. And oh, by the way, this year that is so bad, we're still going to compete. We're still going to be a good team. We're still going to make the playoffs unless something crazy happens. And who knows? You just never know. But this is not a Buffalo Sabres type rebuild. This is not a Anaheim type rebuild. It's not any of that. It's a bridge year to next season when we get our top prospect in, when we get a couple guys that, older guys that take up a ton of cap space off the books, and, juicy UFAs that are going to be out there. I give him an A-, and I knock him because you screwed up the Gensel deal. But come next season, we're not even going to remember the Gensel deal because we're going to have somebody in here that is going to make us forget all about our ex, Jake. So A- for me. I love what Eric Tulsky's done to this point, and I'm excited to see, how he leads this team into the future. So, AB, I will leave you with your final thoughts, and if you don't have anything, you can take us out whenever you're ready.
I don't. Thank you so much for listening and watching episode 56 session 56 of Caniac Sessions. If you haven't already, to keep up with us, subscribe to us on YouTube, like the video, comment, click the notification bell so you don't miss anything that we put out. You can follow us on X, Instagram, and now TikTok and
right.
Facebook at Caniac Sessions. If you want to keep up with Griff personally, you can follow him on X at M_Griff10. If you want to keep up with me on X personally, you can follow me at AB Caniac Session. Thank you so much for listening and watching session 56. Rest in peace, Johnny and Matthew, and we will see you in session 57.
Bye.